Welcome back to this episode of Second ID. Today, I'd like to be a bit more precise on the point about linguistic plasticity. When we're learning our first language, we've we probably didn't feel anything as a baby or as a child. As we as we're learning this many aspects of society, the social courtesies, common courtesies, whatever you call it, things that are not acceptable and acceptable. We we have these natural instincts to blend in within the living environment where we are in. So when we were born, we basically didn't have anything in our brain. We didn't have any knowledge, although we had this biological inherited characters. Then we start losing our creativity as we continuously make adjustments to the existing system of society. We are subconsciously being suppressed by the system, the social system. Things like a school, institutionalized thoughts, belief systems, all of that suppress our creativity, and that influences the way we learn languages. So it is evident when we see a child learning his or her first language. Children are not really afraid of making mistakes, and they seem have seem to have no idea what it's like to make mistakes. They don't even know what a mistake means. A mistake is a mistake when somebody points out this is a mistake. And then we correct our word choices, the way we speak, the way we write, just following this existing system of grammar or vocabulary that are commonly used in any given society. So without this existing system, we would create other ways of expressing ourselves. Because of this existing system, we have to continuously correct ourselves as we're learning our first language. So it is this process of correcting ourselves by the adults and grown-ups and the authorities or textbooks and we're reading. We so through these corrections or this process, whatever we call it, we're tamed. Basically, we get tamed to the system of society, and we are slowly, gradually losing our creativity in that process. Whether we like it or not, if you want to survive in any given society and do well, you're required to speak in a way that is acceptable. If you don't speak the way they speak, the people around you, you're not be you won't be accepted or validated in your society. So your intuitiveness is slowly compromises for what is being required for you to perform in given society. To restore or recover that intuitiveness or creativity or neuroplasticity, whatever you call it, just imagine, just think back to the point when you're a child, when you're growing up, and how you used to learn things for the first time. We don't care about rules. We don't care about what is being pointed out. We don't care about others' feelings that much. We're not that empathetic. We don't really care about the consequence of our action. We don't care about making mistakes. We just do it for fun. We do it for entertainment. We do it for our own interest, for the sake of our having fun. That's what we all care about as a child. That's all we care about, actually. So get that back. Take it back. All the things I used to do as a child. As long as you don't make the terrible mistakes. I mean, the kind of mistake that's like irreversible. Like, like commit a crime or something. Unless a mistake as terrible as that. You can be like a child when it comes to learning a second language, and then people are more forgiving than you think. Although you could be often laughed at, if you act like a child, but that's a process of learning another language. So just get used to it. All right. All right, let's say you have the guts to become like a child at learning a second language. And what is the next step? When somebody pointed out your mistakes and you accept it, right? You got to be humble. You got to be modest. You got to be willing to learn. You should practice that attitude all the time. When it comes to learning something new, you're a novice. You have no idea. Second language acquisition is the same thing when it comes to reception. When you receive information, be willing to receive the information and practice the information to your own good, right? When somebody doesn't understand you, there's no point of communication, right? There's no point to learn another language if you cannot communicate your thoughts and ideas. So imagine that there's no existing system. How would you express yourself? Think about it for a second. Children are really interesting creatures. They're interesting subjects for this matter. They do not realize their grammatical mistakes, so they come up with new rules, misplacing subjects, verbs, object, assembling sentences in puzzling orders. So they pretty much experiment with all kinds of ways of expression. They just keep searching for ways to express themselves from very creative angles. Because their minds are open to all forms of communication, art, whatever you call it. When you're starting out to learn another language, we need that attitude. We need that attitude that will allow us to open to many, many possibilities, many other possibilities we never imagined, right? Just like a child. Children, even if they do not follow the conventions of the language, they just do so. Until somebody comes up to say, hey, this is wrong, we don't normally speak like that. And then so every time this occurs, as a child, you feel like, oh, okay, this is a correct way of saying it. This is the convention of the language I am supposed to master in order to survive. So you adjust your behavior, adjust your thinking patterns. And then that solidifies your ways of thinking as well, your behavior. And it is this process where we lose our neuroplasticity. We lose creativity as we adjusting to the existing system of society, the existing language. Our creativity diminishes or slowly declines as we are being tamed to act according to the rules, adapting to the system. We're losing our natural mind to have so many possibilities to many things. and our mind is slowly getting fixated in a common way, in a collective way. Of course, there are some exceptional individuals who don't really limit themselves to that, but that's rare. And most of them express themselves through other forms of communication like computers. For example, Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, and they don't rely on languages to express their creativity or intuitiveness. To recap on today's episode, so I briefly talked about what limits our ways of thinking, and that is the social system, the social rules, and or whether it's invisible, unspoken rules, whatever. We have the responsibility to adapt to the society we live in, and that ultimately limits our thinking, our creativity, and inventiveness and intuitiveness. All of that is limited to the essentials for us to gain in order to survive in a given society. All right. To restore our natural ability to learn anything new, the first step is to open up to possibilities like a child, not afraid of making mistakes and pretending like you have no idea what the concept of making mistakes even. But when somebody corrects you, concrete feedback, whatever you call it, if somebody guides you, whether it's native speakers or just your language teachers, accept those mistakes and learn from those mistakes. When authorities get involved in the learning process like this, and then start correcting us, we slowly, gradually, we're losing our creativity, our intuitiveness in learning the language. So after years of repeated exposure to the same environment, for example, your country, where fixed patterns of the environment's language were drilled into our heads, so their patterns of thinking also become solidified. All right? So the major two steps here for you to take away is open up to possibilities. All right? Be willing to make mistakes. And let others correct you. And be willing to accept those corrections and practice. So our ultimate goal here is basically to learn to be humble, I guess. Be like a child. Learn to be like a child. Just volunteer to be careless. When somebody point out and laugh at you, just laugh at them back. Because they have no idea what it means to learn something new and what it takes. If they're willing to give you concrete feedback and care for your growth, just be willing to be under their supervision, under their instruction, under their guidance. Unlike other subjects, language learning or second language acquisition won't be happening unless some experts are involved in it. So you become like a child, that's the first step, and then let others correct you, and act like a child again, and you're being corrected, acting like a child, being corrected, acting like a child, being corrected. All right? You try every possible way to express yourself, your feelings and ideas. You make lots of mistakes during the process, and somebody point out your mistakes and correct you, accept it. You have to keep repeating the process until you get sick of it. Keep repeating the process until you speak like them, you act like them, you eat like them, and you move like them. You make jokes like them, you listen to music like them, you play music like them, You become totally assimilated into that culture in every aspect of your life. So good luck on your journey to regain your plasticity. Until next time. Yeah, and one more thing. Don't drink coffee too much. I guess, well, that's me, but it doesn't really help. All these stimulating substances. I found that to be a distraction, actually. So yeah, there are individual differences there when it comes to the diet, but stimulus triggering foods don't really help. Like I said before, be a child, be like a child first, and children don't really drink coffee. I mean, I'm the majority of children, right? Oh my gosh, I started talking again. So yeah, until next time, guys. Bye bye.